Extreme Rules was bizarre. Sorry, the horror show at Extreme Rules was bizarre. The whole time I was watching it, all I could think was, if you had finally bit the bullet and decided I am going to watch professional wrestling for the first time, what on earth would you have made of this? It was like an assault on your senses, like a worm had got into your brain and hop and eat a massive lump, and the next day you're like, I can't control things anymore, because that is what would happen. It just left me with so many questions, and no word of a lie, I think it is officially the weirdest WWE pay-per-view I have ever seen, and I saw a fake turkey come out of an egg. Why? Imagine you never watched this series either. That is also weird, but here's why. The first reason is, I liked it. Seriously, at 2.5 hours, it just flew by, and there was so much craziness and just so much strangeness from minute 1 to minute end, that being the fake ending, because then we had a real ending. It's true. When I turned off my TV, I went, I can't believe it. I've been sports entertained. But Vince McMahon loved that. I was like, I've heard about smiles on people's faces and sports entertained, and he did it. So that ties into the whole title of this video too, because despite going through some kind of out-of-body experience, when I re-entered my physique, yes, I felt like I'd had fun. And also, do not forget, time travel does not exist. There's no DeLorean, there's no nothing. We cannot travel back through the ages and eradicate Extreme Rules 2020. It is going to be here forever, and it's going to outlive you and me. Not Vinnie Mac, because he's going to live forever, but we are screwed. The word bizarre greets you at every turn as well, or almost every turn, because let's zoom to the pre-show match, and it was really good. I know we have had better pre-show matches sort of over the last few months, but usually it's just random wrestlers thrown together. But here Kevin Owens and Buddy Murphy started things off brilliantly, but don't pretend it wasn't odd, because it was that classic WWE thing of like, oh, we're having a random match from nowhere, and you're like, why? Why do you do this for me? As for the tables match between the New Day and Cesaro and Shinsuke Nakamura, well, Cesaro is a WWE Champion, and he won on Smackdown. If you watch Ups and Downs, you know that never happens, so that 100% counts as bizarre. And it was amazing. And Kofi Kingston no longer has a back. Match 3 kind of steps outside of this, because Bayley versus Nikki Cross for the SmackDown Championship, well, it was just there, but in a nice way. Like, they had a very, very, very decent match, and I would watch it again. But again, is Nikki Cross seemingly going back to her bizarre character? Yes, she is. So if you really want to make this argument, you can pluck that out and stick it in the board, because I have an Extreme Rules board. But that's when it started properly, because we had a random Firefly Funhouse, which is a bit unexpected on pay-per-views, and Bray Wyatt, or should I say more specifically, a fake puppet, a rabbit that's not real, told us or aired a clip of that karaoke segment from SmackDown a couple of weeks ago, where all of a sudden WWE were taking shots at themselves. And that's not what the rhetoric was, because obviously you thought it was a good idea, hence why we got it in the first place. But then 7 days later, you were even having video packages going, oh, well, this was a bunch of fun, but then that damn Lacey Evans ruined it. You can't now all of a sudden turn around and go, well, what a pile of crap, but look at us laughing at ourselves. That's not how this works. And why is Bray Wyatt somebody who is competing for the Universal Championship, so a main event guy, insulting things that he has nothing to do with? And also, why would you shine a light on this? Why would you shine a light on this? Wait a minute. Oh, I've got it. It's the word bizarre. It was the same for Apollo Crews versus MVP, which never happened. And this is such a mind flub. You will turn into Homer Simpson when he's talking to Ned Flanders about the difference between apple juice and cider, or whatever it was. You'll just collapse on the floor because your brain actually can't process the information. Because look, we, the audience, know that the reason Apollo wasn't there is that because he more than likely, or almost 100%, tested positive when it comes to the global pandemic, which is ruining the world right now. But within the story of WWE, MVP doesn't know this, Bobby Lashley doesn't know this, and the commentators don't know this, and nobody knows this, because they were all telling us it happened when Apollo Crews got injured 4 weeks ago after a full Nelson by Bob, even though we'd seen Apollo on the show since then, and he had been fine. And I get the stories are always used to write guys off TV, but this was something else entirely, especially because an MVP did just come out and go, oh, you know I married this United States Championship, well, it's now officially mine, and he walked off. And then once again, we the fans were like, well, is he now the champ, or is he just being a dick? Especially because later on, we had exactly the same story, but with a twist. Because you see, the thing here is, WWE sometimes does say that yes, because the other guy couldn't make it, the challenger did win by forfeit, so they're now the champion. But other times, they haven't said that, and because nobody bothered to give me an answer here, and I understand they want you to tune into Raw, but it still leaves me of 24 hours, it's like I'm lost in the Phantom Zone. It's like Superman has sent me to the Phantom Zone, I'm in the Phantom Zone, and I'm with General Zod, and General Zod is just talking about kneeling, because you remember from Superman, he just wants everybody to kneel. And onwards this went because the follow-up was two guys going after each other's eye, and that's all I really need to say, but I do have more, because actually, they weren't. Now I do think this came out much better than expected, and I mean much, much better, but as all my casual wrestling fans friends have messaged me this morning, they said, look Noah, I watched this crazy pay-per-view because someone told me there was an eye versus eye match, and I was intrigued, but if that was the case, and the finish could only happen when an eye was removed from a skull, why did I see frog splashes, and why did I see a bunch of dives? And I was like, I don't know, why are you asking me? And now right, if my job is to remove things from somebody's face, I don't body slam, I stab, I pry, I wrench, and I do really bad things. And then Seth was throwing up, but Bayley thought it was the funniest thing that she'd ever seen, and Rey Mysterio's own son didn't give two hoots, at least not from a vomiting perspective. I mean, try and justify that. In the comments, all it says is that Seth Rollins has a weak stomach. Ooh, scary cult leader, can't even handle a bit of blood. It all kept on coming as well because yes, next up was the finish between Asuka and Sasha Banks. Now look, thankfully, you can actually try and calm this one down because as it turns out, Vince McMahon had one of his wake-ups, oh, I want to change a finish on the day of the show, and that's why there was all this craziness. So yeah, Asuka was meant to win nice and clean, but no, we can't have nice things. And if you don't know, Bayley basically got involved here after the referee had misspat in his face, put the referee's shirt on, counted 1, 2, 3 after Sasha Banks had the pin, and those two guys just decided, we're the Raw Women's Champion. And there's nothing wrong with that. I can even understand why the bell rang, because Bayley went and bullied the timekeeper, but why did Sasha Banks' music play? Why are the production team in on this too? They went, oh, finally, our conspiracy theories pull off, and they hit the play button. Even WWE.com can't make up their minds. They were like, well, officially, that's not how a title change happens. But, for now, we don't know what to do. And then my loins were just torn apart because we had a match that I absolutely loved and once again did enjoy, but the stipulation was so bizarre, I was still trying to figure out what to do. I'm not saying that it wasn't creative or that you couldn't take something away from it, but Dolph Ziggler saying to Drew McIntyre, look, here's what's gonna go down. It's an Extreme Rules match for me, but not for you, and if you get disqualified or counted out, you're still screwed. But you can't sit there and not go, Dolph, if you had this much power, why didn't you just make a, hey, you can only win this match if your name is Dolph Ziggler? That could have been the thing that you did, but for some reason, you held yourself back. And you also put the whole, well, you can't get counted out thing, but at no point did you just run away. You could have just run away, and then Drew would have had to come and get you, and the further you are away from the ring, the more trouble he's going to be in. And I get it, if you break down anything to the nth degree, especially pro wrestling, it does just become a bag of goo, but you have to be able to suspend your disbelief too, and this one was almost impossible, which is why I was watching it going, man, Drew McIntyre, Dolph Ziggler, these are top tier wrestlers, no wonder they are at the top of the ladder. But then I was like, oh yeah, also, all of this, absolute baloney. And as for the swamp match, I mean, do I even need to explain why I thought this? It was bizarre in its very nature. Why did Braun Strowman kill a man? Why was Alexa Bliss there? And why did Braun look at a version of himself? Why does he now have a doppelganger? And I get it's all meant to be some kind of weird fever dream, but I would still like to know how I, the viewer at home, am able to see somebody else's hallucination. It would be nice to have an answer. Surely Strowman needs to go to jail too. We saw him set a man on fire. He then ran off, I'm presuming trying to find some water because he didn't want to die. Probably got a wife and kids, but oh, Braun never thought about that. But yeah, he will get away with it, and this ties into yet another big picture when it comes to these cinematic matches. Now, I need to point out I love them. If you want to keep giving them to WWE, I will keep drinking them down. But AJ Styles, he came back from being murdered. Here, Braun Strowman is a murderer himself, but there won't be any responsibility on WWE television. There'll be no fallout. You're just allowed to do this stuff, and it goes back to suspension of disbelief. So kayfabe land within WWE is just nuts, because you can murder, you can die, and there's this thing going on around the world right now that we know about, but that doesn't exist in World Wrestling Entertainment, even though when I watch these shows, there's no fans, and the people that are in the arena are wearing masks, but the reason for that, once again, in kayfabe is they just decided to, But I know that's not true. You see what I mean about the worm and the brain? It really gets confusing. And all of this means that the whole pay-per-view will split people down the middle, and I know this because I've already been on Reddit and I've already been on Twitter. I'm going to imagine the smallest category will just be, oh, I really loved it for what it was. Then there'll be a bigger category, and I fit into this. I loved it because it was just 72 million miles of absolute craziness that somehow I jumped on and rode all the way home. And then there'll be the third people, the negative Nancy's. You're allowed to be a negative Nancy or a positive Pete. It's your choice. There's no good, there's no bad. Who will be like, that was a pile of poop. Somebody poked me in the eye, so I never have to watch wrestling again. Do it with still steps. I see where you're coming from. If you're an old school wrestling fan and you're looking for a bit of realism, well, on the 19th of July 2020, you certainly wouldn't have found it. It means we do open a whole new door to what professional wrestling is meant to be in the current times, and I certainly don't have an answer for you, but I do appreciate that we have the choice. The way I'm kind of viewing it at the moment is, if you want it to feel like a real sport, you should go and watch New Japan Pro Wrestling, right? They will give that to you. If you want like a combination between the two, AEW has you hooked up. And as for WWE, if you like the equivalent of drugs being injected into your face, they will throw anything at the wall and they will see what sticks. I don't mind either one. I'm not gonna lie, I enjoy the fact that I can jump through all of these. And you know, if a mate of mine said, Simon, what is professional wrestling? I don't know anymore. Everybody is treating it so differently. But yeah, again, I've said it once, I'll say it twice, maybe a little bit quiet so no one gets too pissed off. Isn't it just fun? For me, you bet your ass. I am on top of the world. It's me riding my horse on top of the world. And if I was in WWE, that is probably a possibility. Horse. Now, don't forget to leave a comment below and let us know what you think about all of this. Not just Extreme Rules. What do you think about the take on professional wrestling? Are we going too far in the wrong direction? Or is this bizarreness actually just the fallout from the whole virus stuff? Shh, don't say the word too much. Like the video, share the video, subscribe to What Culture Wrestling, then head over to whatculture.com, read yourself some articles, follow What Culture at What Culture WWE on that there Twitter, and watch more videos here on What Culture Wrestling, including ups and downs, where we get into this even more. My name is Simon from What Culture. Thanks for watching me, and if you wonder why I'm so energetic today, it's because of Extreme Rules. That's how much I dug it. I'm okay with things not making sense, which means yes, I am part of the problem, but my parents tell me that every day anyway. It's not true. I love them both. See you soon.